Here are 8 places you want to consider putting your money after you get paid. Since I've been helping people manage their money for the last decade and a half, I've seen most people can make it to step 4, but then they get confused about how to prioritize the steps after that. But if you can do all 8 in the right order, you'll see tangible results in your financial life in the next 6 months. And if you set the system up once, you can keep it running and just do the same play every month so it becomes automatic, and it's going to require very little time. So let's get to step 1, which is actually, it happens automatically before the money hits your bank account. And that is contributing to your work 401k or 403b, whatever the work retirement plan is. I won't spend much time on this, but the minimum goal here is to at least get the company match, because that's essentially free money. If you don't get a match or you're self-employed, this is still step 1 because you're implementing that financial principle of paying yourself first. If you can do that, then you're hiring your money to work for you instead of leaving it in your bank account and then eventually working for someone else, or sending to all the other companies or institutions that need your money if you're paying a mortgage or rent or all these other things. The goal here is to pay yourself first. Now, step 2 should be automatic as well. And this is getting the money into your paycheck automatically into your checking account, which should be happening already. And you want to think of this as like the hub of an airport. Planes don't just stay at the hub, they land and refuel, and then they get redeployed to the next destination. So your paycheck lands in the checking account. And when people don't send their money out strategically or have a plan, they wonder where their money went at the end of the month. But you're not most people. And the next few steps are, where do we actually deploy it first? So step 3 is something that you do once, but then once it's complete, it's no longer part of your monthly routine. And that is to just build up your base emergency fund, somewhere between 1 to 3K at a minimum. You might only be able to send small amounts each month towards the emergency fund, but the important thing is getting that automatic transfer happening. And the goal is to hit your goal amount achieved. We want this base emergency fund because without the buffer, then every emergency becomes a new debt. But with it, you can handle the problem and then move on in your financial life. Most people will keep their emergency fund in a separate account, usually a high yield savings account. The next step is paying for your needs or your necessities. These are things like rent, utilities, groceries, healthcare or insurances, transportation to work, things like that. But remember, we're not paying for wants or fun money yet. That comes soon. For right now, we're just making sure that we have enough just for our needs. And if you don't know what your absolute needs are for each month, I'd consider looking at Monarch Money or YNAB or even a simple spreadsheet to just track for a few months to see what that baseline level is for your needs. Ideally, that number should be less than 50% of your take-home pay. So far, we've got money going to your retirement. We've got a portion building up your emergency fund until that's satisfied. And then you're getting your necessities paid for. So hopefully we've got some left over. If you do, here's where it can get fun and where you actually start seeing some real wealth building happening. Though there is something that gets in the way of this, and that's consumer debt. It's like credit cards that are charging you 10 to 20% interest or more each year. But I wouldn't get discouraged if you've got this debt. Rather, reframe debt payoff as the greatest return on investment that you can get right now. Because if your credit card interest rate is 20%, and you're sending, say you send $100 to pay down that debt, think of that like a 20% return that you're getting on that $100. That pretty much doubles the average S&P 500 index for the last 30, 40, 50 years. And then for the next step, once bad debt is gone, this is where the magic happens. This is where you start building that financial freedom fund. And this is the investment account, a separate investment account at a brokerage account. And this account can have 2 jobs. First, you can build up even a greater emergency fund, which is just 6 months of expenses for just to have financial security. And think of this as like this I can sleep peacefully at night fund. And that's invested in a money market or conservative fund within that brokerage account that's easily accessible. And you can treat it as separate, but it's if a bigger emergency happens. And then second, once you hit that 6-month mark, then this account becomes your wealth building machine. And this account, along with your retirement accounts, will eventually make work optional. And I'd start in that. For what investments, I'd just consider doing boring index investing, either ETFs or index funds, if you're new to investing, just to get it going. And the next step is your fun money account or your wants. So think of this as like the guilt-free spending account. And this is your reward for taking care of your future self already. And if you've got a surplus, I've seen common guilt-free spending accounts receive anywhere between 5 to 15% of your paycheck if you can do it. And if your bank allows you to have multiple accounts, you can have different accounts for different purposes, each with their own goal. When I had less disposable income, I put 5% every month into a home renovations fund, just an account, separate account at the bank account in my bank. And that would build up over time. And then we'd use that to do improvements around the house. Same thing for vacations. At 5% would go into this, again, in my same bank, but just different account. And that would build up over a number of months. And then we could feel good about spending that on family vacations. The key word here is guilt-free spending. When you've handled the important responsibilities already, spending becomes more enjoyable instead of stressful. And if you're wondering how much you can spend on guilt-free spending, it really depends on what level of wealth you're at. Each level of wealth, there's 6 of them, they have different rules and they've got different strategies, and then they also have common mistakes. So if you want to learn more about those 6 levels of wealth, then I'll include a link to a video up here that you can watch next, and I'll also include it at the end of this video. And then the next step is getting money into more retirement funds, ideally tax-free Roth accounts if you're eligible. So if you're under 50, you can contribute up to $6,500 per year into a Roth IRA. And the beauty of a Roth is you pay taxes now on the amount, the contribution that you put in, but everything, once it goes into the Roth, it can grow tax-free forever. And then when you're 59 and a half or older, you can start withdrawing money and Uncle Sam doesn't get a cut. That step really amplifies step 1, which was your 401k savings, where in the 401k, you get a tax break now, but your Roth, it gives you a tax break later. So you win either way. Now, those last 2 steps around guilt-free spending or more money into retirement, that can be debated on which one comes first. But the big win here is that you have a framework to get going so that you can master your money. And then here's that video on the 6 levels of wealth and how to make it to the next level and what to watch out for when you do get to that next level. And I'll see you over there. Take care.